Welcome to the Strixhaven rules video. My name is Nelson.
And I'm Serge. Let's go over the new mechanics.
If you're like me, you love value. And nothing says value quite like getting even more out of the spells you cast. Magecraft can have a couple different results, but they all have one thing in common. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, you get something extra. For example, if you control Archmage Emeritus and cast an instant or sorcery spell, Archmage Emeritus' Magecraft ability will trigger, and you will draw a card.
If an effect creates a copy of an instant or sorcery, does Magecraft trigger?
Yep.
But what if an effect creates multiple copies of an instant or sorcery?
Also yup, and once for each copy created.
Holy moly! I'm a big fan of Frost Titan, even though the poor giant is often considered in last place amongst all the Titans. Some would even go so far as to say Consecrated Sphinx is the better blue Titan, and it's not even a Titan. Anyways, now Frost Titan has its own mechanic, Ward. Not feeling so special, are you, Primetime? Ward is a triggered ability that reads Ward Cost. Whenever this permanent becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless that player pays cost. If a player casts a spell that targets multiple permanents their opponent controls with Ward, each of those Ward abilities will trigger. If that player doesn't pay for all of them, the spell will be countered. Ward is an evergreen ability and will appear in future sets.
If you're still paying attention to what I'm saying at this point, it's obvious you're here to learn. Why not learn about this mechanic? Learn means you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. If you didn't discard a card, you may reveal a lesson card you own from outside the game and put it into your hand. If a card is brought into the game from outside the game, it will stay until the game ends or until its owner leaves the game, whichever comes first.
What does outside the game mean?
If you're playing at a tournament, you may select only cards from your sideboard. In a casual game, though, go ahead and grab any card from your collection. If you're playing limited, you can grab any cards from your pool. If instructed to learn, you may do nothing. Discarding a card and putting a lesson card into your hand are both optional. Lesson is a new subtype found on some instant and sorcery cards in this set. The lesson subtype has no special rules associated with it. Although you may want to include lessons in your sideboard if you're playing with cards that instruct you to learn, lesson cards can be included in your main deck like other instant and sorcery cards.
Sometimes the best way to teach is to show, but be careful as your opponent may be a quick study. Demonstrate is a mechanic only found on 5 cards in the Strixhaven Commander products. Demonstrate is a triggered ability. Demonstrate means when you cast this spell, you may copy it, and you may choose new targets for the copy. If you copy the spell, choose an opponent. That player copies the spell and may choose new targets for the copy. You choose whether to make a copy as the demonstrate ability resolves. This happens before the original spell resolves. Your copy goes on the stack above the original spell. If you copy a spell with demonstrate, you then immediately choose an opponent. If they copy the spell, it goes on the top of the stack. So let's break down the order of how things will work. You cast the spell, you copy the spell, then your opponent copies the spell. So when they go to resolve, your opponent's copy will resolve first, then your copy, and finally the original spell will resolve. If the spell requires targets, you choose the target of the original spell as you cast it. If you create a copy of the spell, you may choose new targets for the copy as you create that copy. Similarly, the opponent you chose to create a copy may choose new targets for that copy as it's created. In other words, your opponent will know the targets of your original spell and your copy when choosing the new targets, if any, for their copy. If you cast the spell and choose not to copy it, no opponent will get to copy it either. That's it for the rules.
Thanks for watching.